In this video, I will discuss the shared struggle of the Palestinians and blacks, how governments share tactics and technology for oppressive purposes and profits, plus Willie Lynch. Watch this short interview. Let's go.
No one can do it better.
There's been a long history of solidarity between Palestinians and Black Americans, and these last few weeks have been no exception. So what's behind this common recognition of a shared struggle? And what similarities are there in the systems that oppress Palestinians and Black Americans? We'll ask an iconic figure of the Black liberation movement in the United States, this week's headliner, author and activist, Angela Davis. Angela Davis, thank you so much for joining me on Upfront. In the midst of Israel's relentless attacks on Gaza, numerous Black activists in the U.S. have expressed their solidarity with Palestinians, and they've called, once again, for an end to the occupation. Back in 2020 in Gaza City, in the midst of Black Lives Matter protests, a Palestinian artist painted a large mural of George Floyd, the African-American man, of course, who had recently been murdered by a police officer in Minneapolis. These two places are more than 6,000 miles away from each other, yet Palestinians and Black Americans have found a common cause with each other's struggles. How does a moment like that, how do these moments come to be?
I think the causes of Palestine and Black liberation have been intertwined. And I just can't imagine that those of us who call ourselves scholar activists, I can't imagine not calling for justice for Palestine. I can't imagine the whole agenda of social justice in the world not including Palestine. In this respect, I think Black people in the U.S. and throughout this hemisphere should feel a very special tie to Palestinians. Of course, there is a long history, but I think back to June Jordan, incredible poet, when very few people were talking about the importance of supporting Palestine. June was upfront, arguing that it was not only necessary to support people in Palestine, but to recognize that Palestine itself is a kind of moral litmus test for the world. Of course, Nelson Mandela said that South Africa would not be free until Palestine is free. So Palestine occupies a very central place in the political imagination of the last 50, 75 years.
How much of the solidarity movement hinges on us having the exact same oppressive conditions, and how much of it is about the broader systems of power that put us where we are? How do we, and because I think a lot of people say, well, my life isn't like a Palestinian. The Palestinian says, well, I don't have to deal with those things over there. How do you tease that out?
Those who assume that they live in a very small, insulated space in the world are just not recognizing conditions as they are today. We do not live in silos. We do not have our little bubbles in which we get to choose what affects us as individuals. I think that what is really exciting about this last period, as much suffering as we have witnessed and experienced, is that we've seen movements against racism expand. We would not have imagined so many people identifying with these anti-racist efforts. And now, of course, we're seeing, we're seeing those who are reacting against it, those who don't want to see us move forward in our understanding of the way in which racism in the U.S. is very much connected to apartheid in South Africa, which is very much connected to apartheid in Israel.
One of the things that's come up in that practice of solidarity is conversations about the role of policing as well. For years, there have been exchange programs that bring together police, ICE, border control, FBI, all from the United States, along with soldiers, police, and border agents from Israel to share tactics on, quote unquote, counterterrorism. Both the U.S. and Israel have been accused of repressive policing, of racial profiling, and they continue to sort of deepen their ties toward developing a kind of shared security model. When you see those relationships, what can we learn from that?
Those relationships that link the militarization of the police in the U.S. and other countries to the leadership of Israel, the IDF, and which is trained police forces all over the country, it becomes clear, I think, that all these issues are intertwined. Let's remember that Cop City is developing in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And precisely at a time when the police were on the defensive as a consequence of the struggles that were catalyzed by the lynching of George Floyd. The police were on a defensive for a little while, but now it appears as if they're trying to not only regain the position they had before, but move forward. And not only
I mean, Richard, I was just thinking, it's not just governments either, right? I mean, private entities are also involved in these kinds of exchanges. For example, we've seen the export of security and technology from private Israeli companies that supply some of Israel's military equipment, surveillance equipment for things like the separation wall between Israel and the West Bank. The same companies are working with the U.S. to provide technology for things like bolstering surveillance and militarization along the U.S.-Mexico border. When we see private corporations benefiting from oppression, even through the discourse and language of security, that complicates the analysis a little bit, doesn't it?
Well, I think that should probably be at the center of the analysis, because we often don't explicitly talk about capitalism and the reasons, why the political ties between the U.S. and Israel, for example, are so strong. What does that have to do with the development of global capitalism over the last decades? And, what does the prison industrial complex have to do with shoring up a capitalist system? That's oftentimes the elephant in the room. That's oftentimes that about which we do not speak, but it is central. It is absolutely central.
This was just a wonderful interview by Mark Lamont Hill with Angela Davis, and very eye-opening. So I wanted to make sure I brought this to you guys. Yes, the so-called African Americans and the Palestinians suffer a very eerily similar struggle. One of the reasons is because some of the Palestinians, as well as some of the African Americans, are both from the House of Judah. I've gone through this. I won't go through it now. So it's very true. An injustice against one of us in this world is an injustice against all of us. We don't live in some box. Like Mandela said, South Africa won't be free until Palestine is free. And so I'm glad to have seen as well that in some of the African countries that they were protesting for Palestine. You guys got to stand up. You got to stand for something. Anybody can see that this is wrong, what's happening. So make that move. And the Father, he loves righteous judgment. Nobody's getting away. His children, the Israelites, did not get away. That's why we suffered the things that we suffered throughout history and slavery and all the curses of Deuteronomy 28. If his children aren't going to get away, the other nations are not going to get away, so that righteous judgment will come, rest assured. And yes, racism is connected. Racism is connected to apartheid in Africa, and apartheid is connected to the occupation in Israel, and the slavery and the Jim Crow and everything that we've suffered in America is also connected to apartheid and the occupation. And not to forget the House of Israel, the Latinos and the natives in Latin America, their colonization and also slavery, which is not really spoke of about, but they also were enslaved. But that colonization that they went through is connected to the same apartheid, to the same occupation, and the same slavery that we have all suffered. None of us are mutually exclusive in that. The governments do share information and share tactics. Here's the reason why. Let's go to Psalms 83, verse 1 through 5. Keep not thou silence, O God, hold not thy peace, and be not still, O God, for lo, thine enemies, that would be the oppressors, for lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. Because what happens is, Satan hates the children of Israel because we are his chosen people. Verse 3, they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. It seems like I'm bringing this verse out almost every other video because the crafty counsel is so intertwined with reality and with the fibers of the world that we live in that it has to come out every time. It just is what it is. And they have consulted against thy hidden ones. That's also very telling because the true Israelites, the true children of Israel are hidden. We are hidden, okay? And the ones that say they are Jews are not, and they do lie, and they are the synagogue of Satan, like the Ish people and the Khazars, as I've gone over many, many times. The crafty counsel, let me finish out this verse here. So they have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones. They have said, come, let us cut them off from being a nation, that the name of Israel may be no more in remembrance. For they have consulted together with one consent. They are confederate against thee. They are confederate against thee. That's the reason why, as was brought out in this interview, they share intelligence. They share tactics. They have exchange programs where they'll bring police from the U.S. and they'll send them to Israel. And they'll bring soldiers from Israel and bring them to the U.S. so they can share in their oppressive tactics to oppress the children of Israel, as well as like they use racial profiling in Israel, same as they do in the United States. Okay, same oppressor, same oppression. So don't let that fact escape you. They are confederate against us and they share information as well as technology. That's why you've got all that technology, the infrared technology, the facial recognition, the stuff that they use at the borders, all the drones. What is that system they have? That Iron Dome system. The U.S. gives them billions and billions of dollars and all kinds of weapons, advanced weapons to use against these mighty, mighty Palestinians that are made up of half of them are children. It's just so amazing that they need all this high-tech weaponry to destroy this people without a army, without a navy, without an air force, without Marines, but they have to go through all of these things to destroy these Palestinians, in whom some of them are the children of Israel, who are suffering under occupation the same way that Israel suffered under occupation of the Romans, okay, as well as also Christ lived his life under occupation and also apartheid. It's so funny how all this stuff is connected during his life. Christ lived his entire life under occupation and apartheid, people. Just think about that. Don't let that escape you. This is something new that the Holy Spirit has given me, so you're going to hear me saying that very often in my videos to get that into your head, into your conscious, and then down into your subconscious. Okay, that Christ lived under an occupation as well as the same way that the Israelites have lived under oppression and occupation and colonization, and some of the others of us in the house of Judah as well as the house of Israel under slavery. There's nothing new under the sun, as I believe it says in Psalms or Proverbs, but I digress. In my video on billion-dollar prison, the United States kind of does the unthinkable while hunger and homelessness run rampant. You guys should go check that video out. I've got a lot of information in there that you want to know, because the corporations also make tons and billions and trillions of dollars off of having us imprisoned. They give us longer prison sentences, and these little towns run off of the backs of having people in jail, and they pay you slave wages. And this sharing of information started many, many centuries ago with Willie Lynch. Yes, I know you guys remember that name, Willie Lynch. He was from a British-controlled West Indies and came to the Virginia colony, who were having trouble with their slaves because there was a lot of revolts going on. So Willie Lynch introduced a system which destroyed the man and woman's roles, and we still suffer from this today, unbeknownst to most of us, but not to me, and that's why I'm bringing it out to you. He said, once you break the male and the female will be out front, leading the family, and we are a patriarchal society in terms of the Israelites. He said, once you break the male and the female will be out front and the male will be behind. That's why whenever you guys see these interviews and they're talking about something bad happen, it's always the female out front speaking and the man behind, because the roles have been reversed. This is outside of the Father's will. This is not the way and the roles that he gave Adam and Eve. You see what I'm saying? It's the complete opposite. And that's what Satan does. He mimics what Christ does, the Father does, but he does the opposite. You see, so that's why Edom's kingdom, they've got the woman out front and the man behind. It's all connected. And so Willie Lynch said, once you break the male and the female, the children will be raised in such a way that the women are going to be tough and the men are going to be punks. You know what I'm saying? That's why you get us shooting all the time, shooting these guns, shooting each other. We're just a bunch of punks without fathers in the homes. So we were never raised with that patriarchal family structure, because they destroyed the family structure to further oppress us. And so now all the roles are reversed. The men are punks and the women are tough. And it's so sad because it's completely outside of the will of the Father, and this will not change until he comes back and he sets up his kingdom and he is in rulership as well as the Israelites below him. That's when everything is going to go back to the original way that he wanted it. Until then, it will not be. And Willie Lynch said, once you've broken them and you've switched up their roles, you're going to have loyal slaves for hundreds of years. And he was right, because we still suffer from this today. It's so sad, but we still suffer from this today. We suffer in many, many ways that we're not even conscious that we're suffering from it. Once we're in eternity and we're looking at ourselves on earth, you're going to be so surprised at all of the ways you were suffering from slavery, from occupation, from apartheid, from colonization, from oppression, from systemic racism that you didn't even realize. Let me continue on. Like I said, yes, the private corporations, they share their technology of oppression and they make a ton of money from it. By the way, you guys, I failed to mention this, but by the way, with the roles being reversed, remember that I say it a lot, and sometimes I've gotten some comments on it, that the Holy Spirit is a woman, has female qualities. Okay, that's why I can hear the difference between the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit, and in whom is speaking to me. Because the Holy Spirit, she is the source of all knowledge and wisdom. So she's very loving. She's there as a helper. She's guiding. You know, she's like nudging you, do this, don't do that, try this, this will make sense. You'll be glad you did it, and you'll know, because it's not a very forthright like voice. But when it's the Father, you'll know it's the Father. He's very straightforward and he's very short in his speech. He's very short and he's very sharp. That's the difference. And Christ, he's your advocate. He's like your friend, but he kind of shares some of the qualities of both the Father and the Holy Spirit, interestingly enough. For those of you that have questions about why the Holy Spirit is a woman, is because it's in the scriptures. I'm not going to go to it now, but I will give it to you. You can go to Proverbs chapter 4 and read verses 1 to 13. Also, go to the Wisdom of Solomon, which is in the Apocrypha, and read chapters 8 and 9. That's Solomon talking about the Holy Spirit, who is our mother. who is our spiritual eternal mother, is the Holy Spirit. So I'm not going to go into that now. You guys uplift yourself and do your own personal development, okay? Because I need you guys to be growing as well. Grow as I'm going through all of these lessons, and don't get left behind, okay? So we can keep moving and moving forward as a community. Like this video, by the way, and you guys subscribe to my channel. I've got nothing but biblical heat that cannot be denied. Last verse. Let me bring out something positive. 1 John 4, verse 4, ye are of God little children, and have overcome them, because greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world. So we have overcome through Christ all of the oppression, all of the occupation, all of the military occupation, all of the colonization, all of the lies about, giving us a fake people, all the lies about, in air quotes, Jesus and that white figure that they put out there, that's Caesar Borgia. I know many of you know that by now. So we have overcome all that. He is awakening us into the truth of who we are, because that is a prophecy that we will wake up in the last days. You are a part of that prophecy that's being fulfilled. And I do not forget the righteous Gentiles called by the name of Christ. We love you. You are here. You are a part of us. You will be sharing in your glory that the Father has set aside for you in heaven, in eternity. And Jews and Gentiles alike, remember, your bloodline will not save you, and it will not save you and get you into heaven, and it will not damn you to hell. Both Jews and Gentiles have the opportunity to go to heaven and to go to hell. Okay, so the thing the number one thing that we're trying to achieve here is making it to heaven. Be ye Israelite or be ye Gentile. That's the whole ball of wax, is avoiding hell and going to heaven. Never lose focus on what we're trying to achieve here. All praises to the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. This is Crown Prince Media. I am the Crown Prince. Let's go.
No one can do it better.